Hi everyone, this video is going to look at training camps. Now, recently I had an email come through from a governing sports body saying that they're doing a marathon training camp, which I had registered my interest in because it's interesting to see what's going on and try new things. Really surprised though at the cost. So they came through as £755 to £955 per person, and that's based on sharing a room with somebody who's probably going to be a stranger. So it's over in Portugal, down kind of towards the Algarve. So gorgeous place to train. Obviously, nice warm weather training, which for the time of year in March is going to be quite useful. Obviously, coming into our spring marathon season, we could face hot weather. We probably won't have had that during our obviously weeks and months in the early part of the year. So obviously, there have been recent years in London where it's been very, very hot. Or previous years certainly where it's 23, 24 degrees, which you can't really prepare that well for obviously over here. Now, the interesting thing is this falls about 5 to 6 weeks before most of those marathons. So the benefit of the week away in Portugal in the heat is largely negated. You'll get some acclimatization when you're there, but that will drop off and be completely gone by the time you then get to your say London or Manchester or something like that. So unless you're doing a very early spring marathon such as Paris or something like Brighton, which is maybe 3 weeks away, then you're not really going to see much benefit from this camp. The other side as well, it's a very expensive trip. £800 to £1,000 per person. That's a lot of money for marathon training. The event itself is going to cost a lot in hotels, shoes, gels, all this kind of thing in training. So it's already a very expensive thing to do anyway. And the other thing is it doesn't include flights. It doesn't seem to include your food. So flights, I looked into this, are about £100 to £300 depending on where you're flying from, and that's flying into the most local airport to the location. And then also it doesn't include food, other than a farewell meal on the final night. It mentions lots of other things. So it mentions that you get sessions with a coach every day if you want to. Now, these are going to be fairly short, I would think, maybe 30 to 60 minutes, maybe at most, which isn't bad. And it really talked a lot about in the email about you're going to get to really learn from these coaches, and you will absolutely. I'm not saying they won't. These are top level coaches. These are former Olympic athletes, but you can only really gain so much from that. And the other thing I've seen a lot in recent months and years is former Olympic athletes or former very high level national athletes coaching people who are amateurs like myself. Coaching them to 3 hour marathons on 70 miles a week. So they say it's it's a very personalized approach, but 9 times out of 10, it's very, very high volume and unnecessarily high volume because they are used to training at these very, very high amounts. So, just having been an Olympic athlete doesn't mean you're a good coach. It means you're a very good athlete, but the two aren't necessarily intertwined. They can be very, very exclusive between them. Things you could do differently with this money. So if you're someone who's really interested in really going full bore and throwing everything at it, there's so many more, in my opinion, useful things you could spend that money on. So I've got a list just in front of me here I'm going to refer to. So for instance, you could have a coach. So someone like myself guiding you through 6 months of training. That's going to cost you, I can't remember work out, mate, but essentially £240 to £440 of just the training camp money, just that £800 to £1,000, you're going to have £240 to £440 left over. You could then spend that on physios, on massage, on gym equipment, whatever you need to train. Or you could have that money separately to save. You could spend between 10 and 13 hours with a physio across a training block. So you could gain loads of information in this time. You could really work on some of these potential injuries, work on improving your performance and endurance in those smaller muscle sets, which will start to tire. So it means you're much more likely to run well, but also much more likely to get to the start line, importantly as well. You could have a sports massage for 18 to 22 weeks. You could have a weekly massage, which for the most part isn't really necessary, but can be quite enjoyable for 18 to 22 weeks for that same money. And I say, by the time you then take into account the travel costs, time off work, time away from family, and probably say the food costs as well, for me, it's an absolute no-brainer that these training camps just do not make sense unless you're an elite athlete really pushing it where you're going to have these high volume weeks. This is the other thing. So you get the acclimatization, but as an amateur athlete, you're having to really hit a massive, massive peak week. Now, if you sign up to this thing and you have an injury, you have an ache or pain, what do? You're out of money, you're out of pocket, and I can't imagine they're going to be refunding you that or giving you any of that back, even if you take some insurances. I can't imagine they'll cover all of the cost. So at this point, you've gained nothing and you've spent a load of money. So what I would say is if you're going to do something like this, if you're interested in that, get a coach. Work with somebody one-to-one or online in some method, but with ideally a one-to-one face-to-face contact as well. But save your money. You will not have to travel. You don't have to be away from home and family and work. You'll get much more in-depth, much more long-term help and guidance to give you a far better marathon result. That's my view. I think it's worth looking into. If you're going to look at something like that, take that option of getting some one-to-one support on a longer term basis rather than a week. 1 week in the grand scheme of things is nothing, but months and months of support and guidance is really helpful. See you soon.